John has been acting strange these past few days. He doesn't appear much at the company anymore. Also did not attend council meetings as before. But the strangest thing was his eyes. Always like probing. Calculate. Quiet and deep like the calm water before the storm. That afternoon, when the golden sunlight still shines on the office roof, James had just left the meeting room when he suddenly saw Tung, my best friend, step out of the floor where John's office is located. Tung had no reason to go there. Even more strange, Tung was startled when he saw James, eyes evasive as if just done something. Don't want anyone to know. Tung, what are you doing up there? James asked softly but doubtfully. Tung smiled and quickly ran his hand through his hair. Oh, I just went up to meet an acquaintance for some personal business. I answered vaguely. Since when did Tung have private matters with John? Someone that both of them used to dislike. From now on, James said nothing more. But inside I started to feel uneasy. He remembered the recent times Tung often asked about Tu Diep, even blurted out once, "As if James doesn't take care of her, someone else will replace." At that time, James thought it was just a joke. But now every piece of memory, the little pieces began to piece together a suspicious picture. A few days later, James' phone had a GPS error. That rarely happens. At the same time, information on the company's important bridge project suddenly leaked. Only 3 people know: James' assistant Tuan and Tung. That evening, under the dim yellow light of the Cafe of Memories, sat down with a young ma. Familiar face. Security camera records blurry images, but it is not difficult to recognize that it is Tung. The relationship between the two people is still unknown, but his instinct, sensitivity, from a man who has dealt with 10 deals, takeovers are ringing Chung's warning bell. Something is very wrong. There's a conspiracy brewing in the dark. And the most dangerous thing is, it involves the person you trust, and the one I love. But not simply want revenge. James with some business tricks. He is hatching a big plot. A fatal blow not only to James's company, but also in your heart and faith. This is the essence of James's plan, in the form of suspenseful storytelling and deep intrigue. Take it easy, take it easy. He knew well enough to take down a man like James, the smart one. Courage and winning people's hearts cannot be achieved by force. Must use head. And the first thing he targeted was not the company, but Purple Leaf. He knew James loved her. He also knows Tu Diep is the only weakness that James cannot guard against. So the plan starts by sowing doubt, to let the people round James go away, including Tung, close friend who started the business with James. Tung met Tung at a small party. When alcohol made Tung loose, he said straight, "You know, James never paid attention to anyone but that girl. You like her to right." Tung was silent, but his eyes could not hide his emotions. Vovo smiled a smile as cold as a knife. "Work with me, we will take James out of the game. Then you can have her, I just need company." From then on, Dung began to grow pine trees with the information contained in the book. Fake document. Lure him into sharing James's internal strategies. Any new plans, new projects are leaked before they can be implemented. Step 2 of Yo. Spread rumors within the company about the failure of the partner to be honest with the shareholders made the shareholders waver. He secretly manipulated some strategic investors. Timely withdrawal, causing the company to fall into a spiral of illiquidity. Step 3, final blow. Orchestrated a financial scandal. Put James on the defensive. At the same time, he sent someone to approach Tu Diep. use Tung himself when accidentally, and reveal the false details. Make Tu Diep begin to doubt feelings and faith in James. He wants to lose everything, not only the company, but also his friends, love and self-belief. Brother, everything collapsed in silence. James never expected one day the very people he trusted the most turned their backs on him one by one. At that shareholders' meeting, the air was thick as if someone had just lit a fire in the room. He sat there with a cold face, but his heart was in turmoil. Listen to each shareholder declare withdrawal. The reasons given are so reasonable that they are absurd. James knows behind the shadows. It is a familiar puppet hand. Anonymous Tung. And the most painful thing is when you know. Tung, a close friend who went through life and death together, is the one who saved. Reveal the company's strategic project plans to competitors. James was speechless when he heard the secretary whispering, "Mr. Tung has encountered thunderstorms several times, and he was the one who sent the documents from the strategy room. Email to strangers. Storm, no response. Don't get angry. Just silent empty eyes. Feels like someone just dumped a bucket of ice water on Tim. I got home without taking off my shoes. I received a message from Tu Diep. We should stop for a while. I see you have changed. No longer the James before Kier." Each word is like a small sweet knife cutting deep into the heart. A James phone fell to the floor. He knelt in the middle of the empty house. Yellow light shines on the figure with head bowed on hands. For the first time in his life, James didn't know where to go. But sometimes it's when everything falls apart, is when people are rebirth. I'd not fall, but he quietly disappeared from the business world for a while. It is rumored that he has gone abroad. Some people say he went bankrupt and escaped debt. But in fact, he is playing the lead role in a big game. This time he played by the rules of the storm and turned the tables. One evening he followed every move of. John asked a good hacker to trace all the emails. Secret deal between John and Tung. One evening he quietly went to find lytutien, the person who silently stood by him, and whisper, "Prepare documents. I have proof." John manipulated the market and bribed within the company. In the dark eyes burning fire. No longer the calm night of old. This is the night when everything is lost and so there is nothing left to lose. Tung and Tu Diep stood frozen in the cold room, trembling hand clutching the printed paper. Copies of emails exchanged between Tung and Dung. One told her, no one revealed. But somehow fate wanted her to know. A former colleague in James's company, Ms. Mai, sent her all, with a short message. He didn't say anything, but I should know. He doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Tu Diep's heart felt like it was being squeezed. She sat down on the floor, her shoulders shaking, tears falling on the paper. Listened to the whole line with Tung sent the strategy diagram to Cho. On the day James was crushed by the press. She remembered the day he called her. His voice was hoarse and he only said one sentence. "I'm fine, but if you need time, I understand, I understand." I and she were silent. Reply, no message after that. She convinced herself that she needed to back off, that her love was not strong enough to weather the storm. She knows. I left the only person who always stood in the way of me. That night Tu Diep came to James's gate. The house was cold and dark. She didn't dare ring the doorbell. She sat down on the steps like a lost child, hugging the scarf James had lent her. First day of winter. Suddenly a voice rang out from behind. "Why are you here?" James stood there. Thinner, more silent, but still warm eyes. "I'm not angry. I don't blame you. I'm just quiet." Enough to make Tu Diep burst into tears. Like a child who has just broken a precious object. I'm sorry. You left me when I needed you most. James said nothing. Just walked closer and sat down next to him. Give her hand to wipe away tears. I understand, but now I don't need you to feel guilty. I need you to trust me. Tu Diep nodded. For the first time in months, she held James' hand tightly. OT because I am strong. But now she wants to be the one to support him, even a little on the dark road ahead. In the quiet living room, only a pale yellow light remained. James and Tu Diep sat across from each other. Coffee table littered with documents and financial statements. Leaked message. Pictures of secret meetings between Tung and Joe. The air was tense as a guitar string. But this time Tu Diep did not avoid it anymore. She straightened her back and her eyes lit up in the dark. You are not alone anymore, James. We will finish this together, James. James is a gentle person. In the bottom of your eyes, the loneliness I've been hiding for so long suddenly melted away like ice under the sun. Are you sure? This road will be very dangerous. I don't just love you when everything is going well. Tu Diep smiled softly, eyes of longing. If I can't be with you through the darkest times, what right do I have to hold your hand in glory? Older brother. James squeezed her hand. For the first time after months of suffering, I feel at peace. They started planning. Purple Leaf, with the acumen from years of trading in the market, discovered a small but fatal thing. Unusual transfers from the account, always through an intermediary company. Eager lip holding that Tung represents. James smiled coldly. We will let them fall into the trap. The plan is, ZE pretends to be the intermediary of a new investment partner. Invite investment in a fake project. An elaborate hoax. If you take the bait and invest, then all collusion transactions will be recorded. Legalizatio. A trap waiting for the right moment to close. James looked at Tu Diep. First time in life, I feel like I don't have just one lover, but also have a true teammate and confidant. We will win, Tu Diep. Oh, we will win together. She smiled, her eyes shining like fire in the dark night. Love in the darkest moments. Only then will you know who is truly by your side. Love. It's not just about holding hands on a sunny day. Sweet words at the time of great success. True love is when both are willing to hold hands, even though there's only abyss and storms ahead. I know the game used to think it was strong, that I can stand alone against all conspiracies. But it turns out, the greatest strength is not to suffer alone, but the courage to trust someone. Let that person fight with you. Same with Tu Diep. She left. Think I don't deserve to be with you when you fail. But in the end she understood raw. Oh, one needs a perfect partner. One just needs someone who won't leave when everything falls apart. Life is not always fair. There will be people like that, silently push you down when you are at your weakest. But there will also be people like Tu Diep silently standing up. Dust off your shoulder and whisper, we will fight together. The biggest lesson is not in winning against anyone. The biggest lesson is never fight alone.